Hello, everyone. I thought I'd kind of do a quick, like, mini sort of devlog thing and see where I'm going with this. I've got a little side project going on that's creation of a very simplistic operating system. I'm trying to make it sort of a Unix-like one, but right now we're in the initial planning phase with a little bit of hashing out some ideas and some bits of code along the way. I've started off with just pretty much a README and started a Trello board with some ideas of what I want to do. I'm splitting up into release canvases, so we've got like RC1 planning happening now with a little bit of stuff going on. I'll quickly share my screen so we can kind of have a look at what's going on. Things out of the way. I started by sort of like getting up a Git repo for it. Take a look here. I've started a Trello board with a load of to-dos and a little mess and testing some stuff. I've got the initial README sort of hashed out with some basic synopses, initial feature sets, the abstract list of all the different sort of basic functionalities for RC1, and then some ideas of prototypes for the actual functionality. Then I got an initial skeleton of the project setup, sort of created the folder structure, added the makefile and the other bits and pieces of files what I wanted to go for RC1. So they're currently in testing, just seeing how they're going. I'm currently also then started work on the actual sort of boot sector. So we've got the bus width done, we've got the alignment, we've got the system stack sort of started up, we've got an entry point. We started a skeleton of comments for different function headers. Then afterwards, I'm going to be filling out these over time as I build out the other ancillary functions. We've got a few header files to do. We've got the system header file to do with like the kernel strings. We're going to include like types header, KMM header, graphics header, and some table headers, or a table header. So our KMM header is going to have like mem copy, mem set, some string length, some inputs to port, output to port, and so on and so forth, reading and writing of port operations and things. I may split that down into different mem sets and mem copies depending on data widths, but we'll kind of decide that. It may turn into an RC2 side of it to elaborate onto that. Then the graphics header file is going to initialize the graphics, clear the screen. We want functions to clear the screen. We want a function to set the text color or reset the text color. Also want to be able to put a character onto the screen, so I'm going to have some sort of video memory in the initialization. Probably just a text video buffer. Also want to be able to put like a string to the screen, which is going to be a looping version of putting a character. Then I want to do later down the line a little bit is formatted kernel print function, so like a printf but in the kernel, so kprintf type thing. So that will have like the general sort of like definition sides of those. Then tables, I want to deal with the GDT, the IDT. I want to create some register structure and define some types of the registers. We want ISRs, IRQs dealt with, the timer, and also the keyboard interrupts and things like that. So that will be like the setup for the header files themselves. Then I want to start working and gluing it all together with the main C. I haven't decided on any tasks for that yet. I'll move through and add tasks to these because all these need to be tasked out. I really need a Trello board to plan how I'm going to plan this Trello board really, but it's one of those I'm getting there. Again, it's a slow moving project. I'm doing it mostly on the weekends. I've just got a little bit of time just to make this video. The actual repos here, I've got the core, the include files, and the make files. These are just like stub files here for adding stuff in. So if you look at graphics.h, we've literally got just saying that it's graphic driver include. I'm going to add all the bits to that along the way. Let's have a look what else. Same with make files and stuff. The only real file that I've actually started working on is actually in the boot assembly, which is like the bootloader or boot sector part, and I've stubbed out some ideas of what we're going to do. Made a 8 kilobyte reservation for the stack. So that's just sort of like keeps the stack grows the stack backwards. And then in the initial entry point, we set the stack pointer to the stack, and then we push the frame on, clear the interrupts, and then call main, set up the external and call the main, and then just do a infinite loop. So basically when it calls the main, that'll be actually calling the C code, which will reside as a main function inside this. So again, this is empty at the moment. I'll be adding some sort of entry point here for the C portion of the kernel source. I haven't worked on the linker script yet, or the makefile. Yeah, I'm going to have an include where it's going to have like aliases for what programs I'm going to be using in the main makefile. So literally, I'll just be able to include this in any makefile that I have. I'm going to have a main makefile here, and then when it needs to do the core stuff, it'll move into the core directory and deal with the makefile here that'll be written. So that's kind of the process and the building idea of it. It's tooling wise, if I go directly to my actual repo, you'll see it. We've got the right up here, I've done the synopses. We've got the tech stack is going to be C programming language using primarily GCC for the moment. Assembly, for now, I'm going to use NASM. I may change that to something like TASM or something, or FASM at some point, and change over to a different syntax. But for now, I'm happy with that going forward, just to start it up. I may centralize it into using more of a different way of doing things. But also the binary type we'll be using will be a 32-bit ELF based stuff. Initially, it'll just be a standard ELF flat sort of binary base. For testing and debugging, I'll use a PC emulator, probably QEMU. I might use VirtualBox as well, I don't know yet. And for debugging, I'll probably use like a serial console from QEMU. I'll have a utility thing with like helpers and basic type aliases. So I've decided kind of on an 8-bit integer, 16-bit and 32-bit integer, and a pointer type, and also a size type for now. I may add more types along the way, but for now that's the initial release canvas one idea. Let's see, so the kernel, it's going to have the ability to load driver modules and be loadable via the boot sector. There should also be some sort of simple memory management functions along with basic text mode driver. Also, eventually a kernel mode shell will also be useful for debugging and initialization towards stage 2 and 3 loading, which should be more towards later release canvases. We'll think about a file system and other stuff, but in general, I want the idea of a dynamic user base for and library loading for additional user modules, some sort of external extensible modular kernel, which is kind of initially release canvas 1 will be starting the idea of that. We want some sort of a Unix-like terminal or shell interface. Somewhere down the line, this might be like way, this may be like way down the line for networking, because we're nowhere near that as a concept yet, but I'd hopefully like to at least implement some sort of TCP and IPv4 into it, and then maybe port some actual additional Unix and Linux based operating system, like all the open source libraries and some other maybe user space stuff. So the idea of this is we're going to have the components, we're going to have the DSA kernel, which is the core of the OS, some sort of editor like a VI or a Vim import or something that sort of works, simplistic and can be used. Some sort of terminal like Xterm with like say 256 color support. I don't know whether I'll do 24-bit support or not yet, depending on size of data structure and stuff. Then the DSA shell, some shells support pipes, redirects, variables, etc. Something like a ZSH or a SH type clone. So the API, I've called this the API. Technically, it's just mostly just the actual core stuff, but this is where we're going to be denoting what's happening. So I've done an abstract of the basic things I want to happen in the kernel core, like memory copy, memory set, string length, read a port and write a port. And then what I've done is broke down the core functions and wrote out what I think would be a viable sort of external function and what it returns and its general setup. Same for all the other stuff like. Then I've moved on to the graphics driver and the graphics initialization and text operations. So initialize graphics and so on and so forth, and just done the abstract. Then broken down the functions, rinse and repeat, sort of init graphics, and put down what I want to kind of what I'd like to see as the overall setup there. And then the table stuff. So we've got a global script, table and gate operations there with an abstract and then a breakdown. Same again with the interrupt script table and the gate operations for that, and the interrupt service routines and breakdown to that. Then the IRQ handler and the initialization and management of that, and then the breakdown of that. Then I was thinking the timer routines, which are going to be needed before we actually start on the keyboard stuff. So I sort of like broke that down there. And then the keyboard routines. More to come, because I do want to have some sort of file system, probably something like an ext2 or 3 base. I don't know yet, something similar to what would be standardized in something like Linux or Unix. Mainly because that way it will have at least some sort of simple structure where I can look up white papers of Linux to go, okay, well, I want it to do something similar to this, and I can look up the specs, and it's a mature sort of file system to use. And then we'll move forward and figure out from there. So for Release Canvas 1, ideally I'd like to get some of these features done. And again, that's why I'm putting them down under RC1 here. And these will just be the initial things to get some sort of user interface, like a typing type user interface and some sort of console base up and running, and just have something boot and something showing. So through the bootloader into the C kernel and the main entry point, basically. So that's basically the idea behind it. I'm going to open this up as an open source project and work through stuff. I haven't actually wrote up any style guides as to how we're going to do the styling of this, like the code style and best practice for codes, what we're going to use or whatever good practices we're going to attain. I'll probably add those along the line. And obviously this is just more of a weekend warrior sort of coding and like a hackathon almost, but it's a long-term hackathon. It's a case of just get it done and as and when. There's no hard time limit just yet, purely because I've got a lot on at the moment. But I will start making time frames and sectioning these out and making more task-based stuff along the way. So that being said, I've been waffling on for a while now. Hopefully it's giving you guys some sort of an insight into what I'm doing in my spare time these days. What little spare time I get, that is. And it would be nice to get some contributors to this as well along the line. Probably once I've finished Release Canvas 1, I'll move on to getting hold of people who want to start joining in and maybe take some tasks off the thing and grab some tickets and start working on stuff. I'll be inviting a few people to the Trello board to look over it and test and do different things. Maybe I'll be looking for testers and other stuff as well. So that being said, I think I'll sort of bid you guys adieu, and I will start working more on the code. I've got a few more meetings to deal with today anyway, so I probably won't be able to get too much code today, but we'll sort something out. So that being said, thanks a lot for watching, everyone, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Hopefully make this into some sort of series or something where we do a few devlogs and stuff and see where we're going. Bye-bye.